Hello students, today's topic is chemical equations. In last video, I explained what is chemical reactions and which methods is represent. In this topic, I explain what is chemical equations and what is relation between chemical reactions and chemical equations. Chemical equation is the brief representation of a chemical reactions in the term of their chemical formulas of reactants and products. When chemical reactions represents in the term of chemical formulas of reactant and products called chemical equations. So this example, it is reactants gives then products with the chemically reactions. This equations called only chemical reactions because it did not represent their formulas. So it is written in simple way, it is called chemical reactions. So this example, sodium nitrate reacts with sodium chloride, gives then sodium nitrate and silver chloride. This is the example of chemical equations. But ever mentioned word equations is not right. Instead of writing the name of reactants and products, it is performed to write their formulas. So this reactions and this reactions, it is the correct method of chemical equations. AgNO3, silver nitrate, NaCl, sodium chloride reacts with gives sodium nitrate NaNO3 and silver chloride AgCl. This is the correct method of representation of chemical equations. This arrow shows the reaction proceed from left to right, and this reaction is irreversible or non-reversibles. Products are not changed to reactants. Which chemical compounds are reacts? These called reactants, and which are produced, these called products. Here we show other examples of chemical equations. The first example of one reactant and two products. So here one reactant calcium carbonates reacts then gives calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. This is the example of one reactants and two products. Second example of two reactants and gives one products. So here two reactants are react with each other and gives one products. Ammonia react with hydrochloric acid or HCl gives then NH4Cl, ammonium chloride. The next example is two reactants then gives two products. Carbon reacts with water and gives carbon monoxide plus hydrogen. This is the reaction of two reactants and gives two products. The all example of the chemical equations. If the reaction's middle sign is this structure, it shows reactants proceed from left to right as well as from right to left. Reactants convert in products and products convert in reactants. So its sign is reversible sign, and this is non-reversible or irreversible sign. Next is the conditions of chemical equations. Conditions necessary for the chemical equations. The first conditions of it should be moleculars. All reactants and products, whether elements or compound, should be written in form of molecular form. All reactants and products should be written in method of moleculars, elements or compound forms. It is most necessary condition of chemical equations. For example, H2, N2, CaCO3, CaO, CO2, etc. The next condition is most common or most necessary condition is it should be balanced. The total number of atoms of each kind or left to right. The equation should be same as those on the right hand side. All compounds or all elements are balanced. So here number of calcium is 1 in right side as well as left side. Number of calcium is 1. Number of carbon is 1 as right side and left side as well as number of carbon is 1. Number of oxygen is 3 in left side. Number of oxygen is also 3, 2 and 3. So it is the most necessary condition of all reactants and products are balanced. If reactants and products are not balanced or without same of number of various elements are absent, called skeletal equations. Balance equations is necessary condition of chemical equations. If the chemical equations involving the formulas of reactants and products without atoms of various elements being balanced on the two sides. In easy way, if the reactants and products are not balanced, this equation is called skeletal equations. So these reactions or equations, reactants and products are not balanced. Equations called skeletal equations. Lead nitrate reacts and gives lead oxide, nitrogen dioxide and oxygen. Number of lead is balanced both sides. Number of nitrogen is not balanced. Number of nitrogen is 2 and here number of nitrogen is 1. Number of oxygen is 6. 3 2 is 6 and number of oxygen is 5. 2 plus 2 and 1. So this equation is called skeletal equations. The next reactions or equations show the balance equations. The equation in which atoms of various elements are equal number on both sides, or if reactants are products is balanced, or in reactants and products has all elements are balanced. This equations called balance equations. This equations is balance equations. Number of lead is 2 and number of lead is 2. Both sides are balanced. Number of nitrogen is 4. 2 is the number of nitrogen and here 2. 2 to the 4. The number of nitrogen is left side is 4. Number of oxygen is 12. The number of oxygen is 12. 2 to the 8 and 4 to the 8 plus 2 10 and 12. So this equation is balance equations. So the necessary condition of chemical equation is balance equations. All equations are the form of skeletal equation. When it's balanced, this called balance equations. Why should a chemical equation be balanced? You all studied in 9th class according to law of conservation of mass. The matter is neither created nor destroyed in a chemical change. The most important laws of the law of conservation of mass. The total number of mass of products obtained in a chemical reactions is the same as the total mass of reactants taking part in reactions. So, the necessary conditions have chemical equation be balanced. Thus, a chemical equation's balance is that equation in which the number of atoms of each kind on the left hand side is the same as those on the right hand side. So these reactions, ammonia reacts with hydrogen chloride gives ammonium chloride. In the above equations, atoms of nitrogen is single and left hand side also single. Atoms of hydrogen in 3 and 1 4 and left side also 4, and atoms of chloride is 1 in right side and left hand side also 1. So the reaction is or equation is balanced condition. Here we explained some balancing methods of chemical equations. First examples is benzene react with oxygen and gives carbon dioxide and water. This reaction is a skeleton reaction because it did not balance. In other example, nitrogen reacts with hydrogen and gives ammonia. It is also a skeletal reaction because it should not be balanced. So, I explain some methods for balancing a chemical equations. First, I explained the second example of skeletal chemical equation because it is very easy, and then the typical balanced chemical equations. First, we write the skeletal equations of the given chemical formulas. N2 plus H2 gives then ammonia or NH3. It is the skeletal reactions. When any skeletal reactions given elementary gas like hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, it represent in skeletal equations, change it into atomic form. For example, N2 change in nitrogen, H2 change in hydrogen. So where N2 change in nitrogen and H2 change in hydrogen, then ammonia. The next step, now balance the atomic number of both sides. Here we show nitrogen is single number, nitrogen is single number, hydrogen is single, hydrogen is 3. So hydro 3 multiplies in right side of hydrogen. So number of nitrogen is 1, hydrogen 3, and other side hydrogen is 3. Now change the eliminatory gases back to their original molecular formula. This is the original molecular formulas. In next step, I changed these elementary gases is original molecular formulas. Original molecular formulas are N2, H2 and NH3. Then count the number of elements in both sides. Number of elements in both sides, N2 is 2 and H2 is 6. Then in left side multiply 2 in ammonia. Then balanced in both sides. H is 6, H2 is 6 here, and N is 2 and N is 2. So its reaction is balanced. In other example, this reaction is skeletal reactions. C6H6 or benzene reacts with oxygen and gives carbon dioxide and hydrogen oxide or water. This reaction is the skeletal form, and many process it should be balanced. First, skeletal reactions have oxygen. It is the eliminatory gases. So, this gas written in molecular formulas. It reacts in elements form, benzene plus oxygen in element form, then CO2 and water. The formulas C6H6 contain maximum number of atoms. Therefore, it should be selected to start the balancing process. The number of carbon is 6, then multiply 6 in CO2 and 3 in H2O, because number of hydrogen is also 6. Here hydrogen is 2. When number of 3 multiply the hydrogen, then number of hydrogen is also 6. Multiply the 6 in carbon dioxide and 3 in hydrogen H2O or hydrogen dioxide. Here carbon dioxide or carbon also 6 and hydrogen is 6. The number of carbon hydrogen is balanced. The next step is balancing of oxygen. Here number of oxygen is 15. 6 O2 multiply 6 into 2 is equal to 12. Here oxygen, number of oxygen is 12, number of oxygen is 3, adding then number of oxygen is 15. So multiply the number of 15 in oxygen. Here number of oxygen is 15. Here we show the number of atoms is both sides are balanced. Carbon 6, hydrogen is 6, number of oxygen 15. Here also number of oxygen is 15. But the equation should be changed to molecular form, because oxygen is not written in original form. In skeletal reactions, oxygen is molecular form, but in this reaction, oxygen is element form. So, if oxygen is written in molecular form, then number of oxygen should be 30 in number. So reaction is also unbalanced. Number of oxygen is 15 and here number of oxygen is 30 and other side number of oxygen is 15. So if multiply in 2 in benzene, carbon dioxide and water, then reaction should be balanced. This reaction is balance reactions. Written in simple, 2 benzene plus 30 oxygen in 12 carbon dioxide and 6 H2, or 6 12 carbon, 12 hydrogen, 30 oxygen in right side, and left side 12 carbon, 12 hydrogen and 30 in number of oxygen. So this reaction is balance equations. It's called balance equations. So the other example of skeletal equations or chemical equations. This reactions written in skeletal form: Mg3N2 plus water gives then MgOH का whole twice plus ammonia. This reactions written is skeletal form. Firstly, the equations writes in this form in secondary. In this reactions, no any elementary gas, so all are compounds forms or atoms form. The next step, so here the number of magnesium is 3 and number of magnesium is other side is single. So multiply 3 in the magnesium hydroxide and 2 in ammonia. So here the next step, number of magnesium is balanced in both sides, number of nitrogen is also balanced in both sides, but number of hydrogen is unbalanced. So here number of hydrogen is 6 and 6 12 in number. So multiply 6 in H2O in right side. So number of hydrogen is also balanced. So this last step, the number of this equations is all elements have balanced. So this reaction is called balance reactions. Mg is 3, number of Mg is also 3, number of nitrogen is 2, number of nitrogen is also 2, number of hydrogen is 12, number of hydrogen is also 12, number of hydrogen is MgOH 6 and this 6 is equal to 12. Number of oxygen is 6 and number of oxygen is also 6. So both side elements have equal in number. So this equation is called balanced chemical equations. Here we write some examples of unbalanced chemical equations or skeletal form. Homework is this today's balance in oneself these reactions and write form this balance condition. First, iron reacts with water gives Fe3O4 and hydrogen. The symbol of in this GS is the form of the molecular formulas written here. Fe is solid state, water is gaseous state, it is the water vapor, so it shows gaseous state. Fe3O4 is solid state and it is the gaseous form. The next example, copper is solid form, HNO3 is aqueous form. And other is aqueous gaseous form. Next is aqueous liquid, gaseous, aqueous. All molecular formulas have their original state. Write the homework and balance these following chemical equations. And this is the exercise which solve own self in notebook. Question first, a chemical equation consisting of two reactants and one products. Second, so here the third questions. And this exercise will also complete in your notebooks. If you have problem in any questions, then take and consult again. Pause this exercise and completes. In question number 16, what do you following symbols indicate when used a chemical equations? You know that S is solid form, L is liquid form, G is gaseous form, AQ is aqueous form, DIL in dilute form, CONC is concentrate form, and arrow is lower side in precipitate form. Or simple way, the products obtained in solid form. Question number 14. Balance the following chemical equations and write the appropriate state symbols. Reactions 1 to 4 in balanced, and write these compounds are state symbols. For example, Zn is solid form, HCl is aqueous form, ZnCl2 is solid form, and H2 is gaseous form. Question number 15. The reactions is given H2Cl2 gives then HCl, and the all points are given below, and it solve and their notebooks. Question number 120 is balance the following chemical equations in long methods in step by step. Question number 19. Name the laws which forms the basis of balancing a chemical equations. You all studies class 9. What is the basis of balancing a chemical equations? Or so this law, why should a chemical equation be balanced? The law of conservation of mass. So, helping these points, complete the question number 19. All questions are explained this exercise. Thank you. Have a nice day.